up, everybody? It's your boy Kryptonian saying here, bringing you a review for One Piece Chapter 683. Now, I like this one. I like this one, man. I like this one a lot. Like I cannot stress this enough. I literally just got done reading this shit, and like to see the chapter open up, and you got Chopper. He's in this huge monster form because he's taking the rumble balls, and I like that. I like the rumble balls a little bit because it reminds me of how Choji would take all these food pills, and as the series progressed, Choji learned to tap into that power without having to use those pills. And so, what I'm kind of hoping with Chopper is that Chopper, he has control over the form. He doesn't lose his consciousness, which was really, really nice to see. But at the same time, I hate the fact that after he uses it, he kind of becomes immobile. And so when you had Chopper and he's just trying to reason to these kids, I'm not going to lie to you. At some points, I'm going, you're huge as fuck. And you got a short window, right? Why don't you just knock them the fuck out? But then I'm remembering, like, oh, that goes against Chopper's character. He's not the type of person to do that. Like, he will fight. We've seen it. But at the same time, he's got the doctor hat on. These kids are sick. They're dealing with addiction. It just makes a lot of sense for him not to kind of go that route. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, dog, I feel you. But, sometimes, you got to put your big boy panties on and you got to start knocking some dudes the fuck out. So I like that. And I like how another thing that you see is after Chopper falls, Nami picks him up. It's just showing like the togetherness of the Straw Hats. And I like how what you see is Nico Robin, she tries to stop him as well. And it looks like Robin's just getting done the fuck in. Like they're beating the fuck out of her hands. It looks like one of those kids grabs some type of pipe. And you actually see her pinky get bent back, man. And like bent in a way where it's like she probably didn't break the finger, but holy fuck, that probably hurt. And you can see her grimacing and everything, and she's just like, oh, well, I think they're past reasoning. It's like, no shit, they're past reasoning. Brilliant observation, bitch. But at the same time, that's mad respect that she was trying to stop them like that. And I like how, as they're running, Chopper's explaining, hey, one of the kids came to their senses, and, it's just showing, one of the things, we talked about before, you ask yourself, is it really worth trying to help someone or help a group of people at the bottom, and they seem like they don't need help? When you just get one person that you're able to reach, that makes it all worth it. And because that makes it worth it, that's why you don't stop. Because you saved one. Now you're trying to save one more. Then you're trying to save one more. Then one more. Then one more. And it just keeps adding on and on and on and on. So I like how Oda was kind of hammering that in there, man. Like that's some really, really, I'd say like some humanist type shit. So that was kind of cool to see that. And I like how like the Mocha Chick, she's holding on to the candy, and she, I don't want to say in a dumb way, but in a very naive way, she sees Monet and she says, oh, well, Monet's been nice to me in the past. And she doesn't say that part, but I'm paraphrasing. But basically, she sees Monet and she's going, oh, well, Miss Monet helped me. She'll help. And that's when Monet looks at it and says, it's not fair to hog all the candy. And I think that's when the light bulb goes off on her head, like, oh, Monet's been in on all this as well. And, it's just something, I mean, it's human nature. Let's just back up for a second, right? Let's look at this from a character perspective. This is where you got to give Oda a lot of praise for being able to capture a child's innocence in this way. Because, one thing that a lot of writers will struggle with is the further you get removed from something, the harder it is to write it. And so Oda being, I guess, like in his late 30s, 40s, however old he is when he's writing this, I would assume in his 40s because if I'm not mistaken, he started One Piece pretty early, so I'd say he's probably in his late 40s. But the older you are and the further you are removed from something, the harder it is to capture how that age group acts. So for him to capture like some probably 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds and to be able to capture that innocence in that way, it tells you one or two things, right? And maybe they're a little younger than this. I'm just bumping the age up because of how tall they are, okay? But in order for him to capture this is what that tells you. One, Oda definitely has a family, definitely has kids, right? Because, as, somebody that is a writer, one thing that they will do is they observe. And if you just pay attention, a lot of people who write, they keep a notepad and they people watch. And the reason why they people watch is because people, when you study their body language, they have little ticks and little small things they do that it just jumps out at you. And you'll be watching and then you'll get an idea for a character, or seeing them kind of behave in a certain way will make you think about a story where you've kind of hit a plateau where you don't know where to go forward with, and all of a sudden you see how they react to something. It might help you kind of figure out, how to stay in universe in your own story. So that in itself shows like he's probably basing some of this off of some of his kids. He's probably got a spoiled kid somewhere. So sorry, winter and cold, so bear with me. But I think that's part of it. I think the other thing is, Oda's pointing out how, most people naturally, they see a woman, smiling face, and all that stuff, and they think like three things. They think, oh, well, she don't do anything wrong because she's a woman, which is bullshit. They think, oh, well, she's naturally loving and nurturing and everything. That's also bullshit. Not all women are naturally nurturing. And the other thing is kids, they look to adults for guidance, and a lot of times, a lot of kids, or I'd say like 99.9% of kids, probably look at like whatever female figure that's around them as being like a mother figure. So in a way, that she's kind of clinging towards Monet to fill in that role, because this is a kid who's been taken away from her family. So I like how Oda just puts all that into just those few series of panels, and that's why I say like over and over, like if One Piece was like in a written format on one hand, it wouldn't get read as much, at least in the West, because one thing that kind of breaks my heart is a lot of people, if there's not pictures there, they ain't trying to read this shit. If it ain't got pictures, they don't want to read it. And it's because of the short attention span. It takes a certain skill set to be able to sit down and read. Like, let's just take this Bourne novel. It takes a certain skill set to sit down and read 597 pages, and to be able to read in between the lines to see what the author's saying without actually spelling out for you that this is what's being said. There's a whole different skill set. Just like reading a graphic novel is a skill set. Just like reading manga is a skill set. A lot of people think it's just like reading comics. A lot of people think, oh, you just look at the images, read the text, and you get the story. And that would be like me saying you read a book, you read a novel or something, you just read the text on the page and you follow the story along. There's a lot more to it if you actually love what you're doing, and if you want to get the full experience what the author's trying to do. And that's one of the things that Oda does very beautifully. Like, just when you look at what he packs into each of these panels, it's more than just the action of what you see. And that's why I love the chapters where you get a lot of character interactions, because what you see just speaks volumes. Now, speaking of Monet, I thought that her fight with Luffy was really, really interesting. I thought that was really interesting because, she opens up and she's got that ice wall, and it's 10 times thicker. And, Luffy lets his guard down for a second, and Monet kind of embraces him and wraps him up, and she's like, don't you feel yourself getting sleepy and cold? And I totally relate to that, man. Like, the colder it gets, the more likely I am to go to sleep. Like, so I totally feel that one. But when Luffy feels himself kind of falling, he uses the Gung Jet Spear, and at first I'm thinking, did he just put himself all the way through her? Did he just go inside of her and through her? And then I was like, wait a second. Luffy just kicked the floor, and it was very smart. It was very smart, and that's what I mean. Like, his training with Rayleigh's taught him to use his surroundings a lot better. He kicks the ground, and he falls all the way through. And at first, I'm like, okay, great idea. He's just falling to the next level, and then it gets revealed. No, he fell all the way down the air ducts into the dumpster. Okay, and it's kind of like the scene from Star Wars where they're in that dumpster and everything starts kind of compressing. So I wonder if that's kind of how Oda's gonna go. But what was very interesting about that is she says, unless he can fly. And I'm like, well, he can't fly, but this dude can fucking stretch. So I mean, he's gonna get the fuck out. Like, that's just a matter of time. So I like that little element there that you see. Now, what was really a highlight for me though was how the chapter ended. This was really good. This was really really good. Like Law, you know, he makes that spear, and all of a sudden he's snapping his finger. He's like, "Hey, you know, heart returned to me," and it's like, "Oh, that was pretty cool. Why the fuck didn't you do that at first, right?" And then all of a sudden, as soon as that happens, Virgo just starts knocking the fuck out of him, starts squeezing his heart. Virgo's going to town on him. He says, "Hey, I got a message from Joker." Like Doflamingo's being built up like this super crime boss. Like I'm fucking loving this. Like I'll tell you who Doflamingo reminds me of just a little bit, just a little bit. He reminds me of Scarface. You know, like you know, I got a lot of younger viewers. So what I would say is like, fuck it, even if you ain't old enough, fuck that. Let's just go all the way with it, right? I would say watch that movie. That is some classic shit. But Doflamingo reminds me of Scarface, man. Like just the more I see this dude wild out, and the more I see this dude on some extra shit through other people talking about him, and you know, like the type of moves he's making, reminds me of fucking Scarface. But you know, Virgo looks at him and he says, "Man, he just told me to tell you it's a shame." And it's just like in that moment, it just spoke volumes, man. It just spoke volumes. It's like in Godfather where you know Michael says, "I always knew it was you, Fredo." Like that type of shit. Like you can just tell there was disappointment there. Like there was so much expected, and yet this is where we are. So I mean, this was so fucking awesome, so awesome. And when you see Law, you know, getting ready to fall out, right? All of a sudden, Smoker shows up, and it's just like, all right, this is what I want to see. I want to see Smoker throw down in a real fight, and this is going to be a great dynamic to see because you see the corrupt person in the Navy, and then you see someone who genuinely cares for his people. You see someone who's a bit of a hard ass, and yet at the same time, he's someone who is on that path that Garp was on, and he's probably got a moral gray area, and yet at the same time, he's somebody who's very dedicated to what he does. So this is going to be great. Like you're literally seeing the type of person that people look up to, and they say, this is why we like the Navy, and then you're seeing what the Navy's trying to stop. So I mean, this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be a really great fight. So my chapter question to you guys is, out of all of these different scenarios that we're getting in here, which one did you kind of resonate with the most, and why was it? And the other thing I have for you is when it comes to trying to stop those children, right? When it comes to trying to stop those children, what were your thoughts on just the fact that Oda was playing up the naive nature of the children from, oh, well, yeah, don't tell anybody that Monosuke ate the candy, and don't tell anybody that Monosuke turned into a dragon. Just keep that to yourself. To all of a sudden, Miss Monet, help me, help me. What were your thoughts on that? But as always, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Have an awesome